This woman led trafficking operations in the cartel when she ended up being cornered by the police and met a tragic end. As incredible as it may seem, she was not the only female criminal to fare badly in a confrontation. For example, Ovidio Guzmán, the son of El Chapo, who commanded the cartel's actions until after a large police operation he was captured and imprisoned. Ovidio Guzmán López, born on March 29 of 1990, is the son of Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán and his second wife. Raised in Mexico City, he studied for 4 years at an institution run by the Legionaries of Christ, being pulled out of the school by his mother after being excluded from a school trip. Since adolescence, according to a United States grand jury indictment, he was involved in his father's cartel activities. In 2012, he was designated by the United States Office of Foreign Assets Control as a key lieutenant of the Sinaloa cartel. After his father's arrest, he assumed a central role in the criminal organization alongside his brothers Iván Archivaldo Guzmán, Jesus Alfredo Guzmán, and Ismael El Mayo Zambada. In April of 2018, a formal charge was filed against him and his brother Joaquín Guzmán López for conspiring to traffic illicit substances since 2008. On October 17 of 2019, National Guard forces captured Ovidio Guzmán López in Culiacán, Sinaloa. The action resulted in armed clashes with cartel members who mobilized around 600 heavily armed men. The offensive included threats of attacks on the families of military personnel and led to his release a few hours later, as stated by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who justified the decision as a way to avoid a massacre. On January 5 of 2023, after a joint intelligence operation between the governments of Mexico and the United States, Guzmán López was captured again in the Jesus Maria district in Culiacán. The operation lasted about 10 hours and involved helicopters and a ground convoy. During the detention, another 17 people suspected of involvement with the cartel were arrested. On the same day as the arrest, Guzmán López was transferred to the Maximum Security Prison Federal Center for Social Readaptation, known as Altiplano, located in Almoloya de Juarez. The United States government requested his extradition to stand trial for trafficking illicit substances. On July 23 of 2024, records from the Bureau of Prisons indicated Guzmán López's release, but the United States Department of Justice stated that he remained in custody. In a hearing held on October 21 of 2024, it was confirmed that he and his brother were negotiating plea agreements, with a new hearing set for January 7 of 2025. The Tropa del Infierno, the armed wing of the Northeast Cartel, is formed by former members of the Mexican military forces. The group stands out for extreme violence and is composed of youths and teenagers willing to eliminate any opposition. They operate mostly in Tamaulipas, where they turn territorial disputes into true war zones. Between 2020 and 2022, the Tropa del Infierno suffered several losses, including the arrest of its main leaders. Despite being considered an elite force, the group did not have an organized hierarchical structure, being classified as a squad in training. The advance of the Tropa del Infierno had a direct impact on the increase in violence in Mexico. Using brutal methods, the group imposed fear and controlled the population. Its contingent was composed to a large extent of teenagers, who became increasingly violent in the context in which they were inserted. Images of clashes between soldiers and members of the Northeast Cartel emerged recently, showing the intensity of the war between criminal factions and the security forces. In a video recorded at night in Nuevo Laredo, a speeding military vehicle appeared equipped with a mounted weapon, capturing the intensity of the operation. Later, soldiers appeared reloading weapons quickly, highlighting the urgency of the fight. The material suggested that 12 cartel members were attacked in the clash. The record concluded with the military response to the cartel's attack, showing armed vehicles and combat tactics used to contain the threat represented by the Tropa del Infierno. The Gulf Cartel, one of the most influential criminal organizations in Mexico, has maintained its active presence in the Tamaulipas region for decades. Its operations are conducted by various factions, including the Escorpion Group, which has been involved in a series of violent events in recent years. In Matamoros, members of Los Escorpiones were recorded forcing fuel transport truckers to empty their tanks. The action occurred because the drivers refused to buy hydrocarbons directly from the cartel or to pay the fees imposed by the group. In recent years, years, the group regained notoriety with attacks against rival factions and public executions. In June of 2021, a generalized war occurred, Los Ciclones, between the cartels Los Escorpiones. As a result, 15 innocent civilians met a tragic end. The group's presence was also documented in January of 2024, when they established a checkpoint at the city's entrance. Images recorded by the members themselves were released as a show of warning. In the footage, the criminals made it clear that any commercial negotiation should be carried out exclusively with them, aiming to eliminate the competition. Maria Guadalupe Esquivel, known as La Catrina, emerged as a central figure within the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of the most influential criminal organizations in Mexico. Raised in Tepalcatepec, Maria became involved with the cartel after leaving her home and beginning a relationship with one of its members. Inspired by glamorized narratives of criminal life, she was quickly drawn into that world. Her notoriety grew when she began to share her life of luxury on social media, where she displayed weapons and flaunted her involvement with the cartel. Under the tutelage of a boss, Maria quickly rose in the hierarchy, taking on responsibilities in trafficking operations and attacks against rival groups. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, led by Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, consolidated itself as one of the most violent factions in Mexico. Between 2013 and 2015, the organization expanded its control, taking advantage of the power vacuum left by El Chapo's capture. The cartel's violence was characteristic of its strategy of territorial domination, and La Catrina played an essential role in its operations. Her direct involvement in ambushes against the security forces culminated in a deadly attack in El Aguaje, where she led a confrontation against police officers. That episode caught the authorities' attention and resulted in an intensified manhunt for her capture. In January of 2020, Maria was located by Mexican security forces. During the attempt to arrest her, a shootout began, resulting in fatal wounds for La Catrina. Images captured after the confrontation showed her last attempt at resistance before succumbing to her injuries. Her end, occurring at 21 years of age, marked the rupture of a brief criminal trajectory. United States Border Patrol agents were attacked by suspected cartel members while patrolling the region near Fronton, Texas. The attack came from the Mexican side of the border during an attempt by a group of illegal immigrants to cross the river. No agent was hit, and the individuals did not manage to complete the crossing. After the incident, the Texas Department of Public Safety reinforced operations in the area, using drones for aerial monitoring, while the movement of Mexican military forces was observed on the opposite bank of the river. The shootouts recorded at the border increased concern among the security forces, resulting in detailed investigations to understand the dynamics of the situation. The presence of heavily armed criminal groups on the border between the two countries represents a significant challenge for the authorities' operations. The Border Patrol continues to monitor movement in the region, relying on aerial and ground surveillance technology. Investigations continue to identify those responsible for the attack and to assess possible connections with other criminal organizations operating in the area. Two American tourists, Aaron Pezant and Logan Howard, traveled from the state of Indiana to Cancun, Mexico, in search of a peaceful experience photographing tropical wildlife. Along the way, they decided to explore a secondary road in the hope of capturing rare bird species. However, what should have been a simple expedition turned into an unexpected encounter with armed men. While they were driving through a remote area, a truck suddenly appeared on the road. The vehicle advanced at high speed, and upon approaching, several heavily armed men jumped out, surrounding the tourist's car.
Oh my God, they have guns. Jesus.
Go,
No, please. Please, what? No, Espanol, please.
No problem, okay?
I'm about to pass out. Logan, don't. It's okay, it's okay.
No problem, okay?
Despite the abrupt approach, the armed men assured the two that they were not in danger. No demands were made, and the tourists were not robbed or directly threatened. However, the individuals left a clear warning: they should not continue down the road. The reason for this restriction was never explained, but the firm tone of the warning made the travelers immediately change their route. Joaquin Guzmán Loera, known as El Chapo, was the leader of the Sinaloa cartel and one of the most influential figures in international drug trafficking. For decades, he commanded a criminal network that transported large quantities of narcotics to the United States and other countries. After successive prison escapes, he became one of the most wanted criminals in the world. His recapture in 2016 marked the end of one of the most complex operations ever carried out against drug trafficking. The action, called Operation Black Swan, took place in Los Mochis, a city in the state of Sinaloa, Mexico. After months of investigations and surveillance, the special forces of the Mexican Navy obtained precise information about Guzmán's hideout. The property, located in an urban area, was heavily protected by armed men and equipped with a system of underground tunnels designed to facilitate quick escapes. In the early hours of January 8th of 2016, the operation was initiated. The Marines surrounded the residence and advanced with tactical equipment. Body cameras recorded every movement of the security forces as they entered the location. The resistance was intense. El Chapo's guards opened fire, triggering a confrontation that lasted several minutes. During the shootout, Guzmán tried to escape through a tunnel that led to the city's sewer system. However, the security forces had already anticipated that possibility and blocked possible escape routes. Realizing that he was surrounded, El Chapo emerged onto a nearby street and tried to blend into the population, but he was quickly located and detained by federal agents. The recapture was officially announced by the Mexican government, and images of the moment when Guzmán was taken into custody gained worldwide repercussion. This capture marked the third time El Chapo was arrested. Previously, he had escaped from maximum security prisons in 2001 and 2015. After this last detention, he was extradited to the United States in 2017, where he faced trial for trafficking illicit substances, money laundering, and other crimes. In 2019, he was sentenced to life imprisonment in a maximum security penitentiary. His capture and conviction represented a significant blow to the Sinaloa cartel, but the criminal organization continued operating under new leadership. El Malboro was identified as one of the main financial operators of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. During the investigation, authorities found his connection with the Gulf Cartel and his direct involvement in transporting large quantities of narcotics to the United States. The operation that resulted in his detention was carried out after months of monitoring financial transactions and suspicious movements across different Mexican states. Reports indicated that El Malboro coordinated the shipment of approximately 1 ton of illicit substances per month, using routes established by international trafficking networks. He maintained a close relationship with Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. The action took place at a strategic point, where federal security forces and intelligence units intercepted Malboro before he could leave the area. Body cameras recorded the tactical approach used to contain possible attempts at escape or armed reaction. Despite being protected by bodyguards, the operation was executed with precision, resulting in the arrest without significant resistance. After his detention, investigations indicated that Malboro played an essential role in the cartel's financial scheme. He was responsible for money laundering and for moving large sums through shell companies, ensuring the cartel's economic sustenance. The impact of his capture was immediate, causing instability within the criminal organization and affecting transactions that depended on his network of contacts. In southwestern Mexico, indigenous communities faced a constant threat imposed by the drug cartel known as Los Ardillos. Without sufficient policing to curb the violence, residents decided to create an armed community force. Faced with frequent attacks and the absence of official protection, children and teenagers were trained to handle firearms and to defend their families. The conflict began when the cartels started to exploit the region's fertile soil for poppy cultivation, a raw material used in the production of narcotics. Farmers who traditionally grew corn became targets of extortion and violence. Those who refused to collaborate had their lives taken, and those who remained in the region were forced to hand over part of their harvests as payment to the criminals. The growing brutality led the local population to organize a self-defense system. The group, formed by farmers and volunteers, took over the area's security, patrolling roads and establishing protective barriers. The training of young people became an extreme measure, but it was considered necessary to ensure the community community survival. Under constant threat, the use of weapons became a reality for many teenagers. Reports indicate that the violence intensified when a group of musicians was attacked upon leaving the zone protected by the armed residents. The 10 members were attacked, generating even more tension and reinforcing the need for security measures. The lack of action by the authorities left the population without alternatives, transforming the community into a territory of resistance against the traffickers. The case gained repercussion due to the presence of minors in the ranks of the community force. Despite the criticism, residents claimed that the situation required extreme measures and that the training of young people was a direct response to the absence of government protection. In recent years, the recruitment of teenagers by drug cartels in Mexico has come into the spotlight. With a tempting offer of easy money and a life without great worries, traffickers have used social networks to attract young people to the dangerous world of smuggling. With the promise of quick and enticing profits, many teenagers, especially in big cities, are seduced by the idea of large amounts of money and the glamour associated with that lifestyle. In one of the most impactful cases, 2 young smugglers, only 12 and 15 years old, were protagonists of a serious accident while trying to flee the police in Texas. The incident occurred in Frio County, west of San Antonio, when the vehicle driven by the 15-year-old lost control at high speed under wet road conditions. The car hit an embankment and rolled over on the highway. Images captured by a dash camera recorded the moment when the vehicle lost stability. The 2 youths, both from San Antonio, were heard calling for help while officers used tools to break the windows and rescue them. Inside the car, a migrant transported illegally was seriously injured and had to be taken to the hospital. The car involved in the accident had been reported stolen in San Antonio. The 15-year-old was detained and faced charges of human smuggling with bodily injury, fleeing the police resulting in injuries, drug possession, and unauthorized use of a vehicle. His companion, 12 years old, was considered missing by the authorities and, although involved in the criminal activity, was not formally charged. Another video recorded a similar incident involving a 15-year-old teenage girl and her 14-year-old brother in Hidalgo County. During a chase, both were intercepted by the authorities and detained on charges of involvement in smuggling activities. One of the main leaders of a faction of the Gulf Cartel, named Jose Alberto Garcia Villano, known as La Cana, was captured in a high-end shopping mall located in San Pedro Garza Garcia, in the state of Nuevo León. His arrest was carried out after an operation conducted by Mexican authorities, who used facial recognition technology from the mall's security system to identify him. Garcia Villano commanded one of the most violent groups of the Gulf Cartel, the Ciclones. He was directly involved in the kidnapping of 4 American citizens, an event that generated increased tension between Mexico and the United States. The authorities offered rewards for information leading to his capture, classifying him as one of the most dangerous criminals in the country's northeast. Reports indicated that he commanded between 10 and 15,000 armed men, exerting influence over trafficking routes and local disputes. Before his arrest, a previous attempt to capture him was not successful. During that operation, he managed to escape from his residence, demonstrating his ability to evade security forces. Do not forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this.